Hi everyone, I'm Mack, and welcome to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution, where inspiration and purpose come from treating people like people and nothing less. And let me tell you, this has never been more important than it is right now, with the coronavirus having a quarter of Americans under quarantine and people being afraid and anxiety getting ramped up and all sorts of things, and certainly people being physically sick. We need inspiring people that treat humans as the beautiful human beings that they are. And today I am bringing you a coach and a mentor of women leaders. Her name is Suzy Carroll. I met her just via email. She got introduced to me to be on the show. We talked right like 2 seconds before I hit record. So our podcast is the very first time we meet, which is how usually I like most of my guests that come on the show. That said, she's an awesome person. Her and I had some similarities in growing up, and we talk about that. And this is a great episode. I hope you enjoy. So Suzy, thank you for joining the Golden Rule Revolution. How are you?
I'm doing great this morning. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on. So I love your website and I love your mission, inspiring mission-driven women and leaders. What a cool tagline and mission that you're on.
Thank you. Well, and I have to tell you, I love your tagline about gain power to make social change from people who are difference makers. I love that, difference makers.
Oh, thank you. Well, here we are then, difference makers united on a podcast. This is great. Tell me, how did you get in your journey?
Oh my goodness, that is such a twisty, turny, long excursion I've been on. But I landed where I am at now. I owned a brick and mortar store, nutrition and wellness center, and I sold it. And I took a year-long sabbatical with the focus of unwinding from my busyness habits.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to take a month off. That was my original idea. I just wanted to take a month off. That sounded amazing. And I had this crazy dream one night, and I woke up in the morning and I went, oh, I'm going to take an entire year off. So that's what I did. And I'd already started to unwind from my busy habits to a certain extent. But I set an intention for the year to really learn what I wanted was to be able to just be with myself without distraction. And going back many, many decades, I was raised by a mother with narcissism. Yeah. So my whole life has played out because of that, in a manner where I did everything I possibly could to avoid my emotions. And my drug of choice was busyness. I was a busyness addict. So I honestly thought I'd take my year-long sabbatical, and I'm certified as a nutrition and wellness consultant, and I was going to go back to that. But during my sabbatical year, I was having all these conversations, random conversations with women. Every single woman I talked to was overwhelmed. And so this body work just began to emerge.
Beautiful. I didn't know. Let's deviate for a second. You and I both share that. I also was raised in a narcissist house, and it's prevalent. I don't think a lot of people talk about it, but I have all these books. Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Buncraft, all these different books. And I was searching because instead of busyness only getting validated when we achieve or we do, and we make that person look good and, perform. But I also internalized the pain. And at the age of 20, I attempted suicide, and then never. You did too? Yeah.
I did too. And it was age 20.
Oh my gosh. I got chills.
Yep.
I got chills.
Yeah. Wow.
And that never left me. That I was suicidal all the way up till 2 years ago, actually, when I finally went to an emotional intelligence leadership training and processed it. But hearing what you're saying, I think so many people are burning out because of just unhealthy habitats or relationships at an early age. And then we don't know, like we get to this point sometime in our life where like we're exhausted, we're not happy. We like, for me, I hit, my wife and I owned an ad agency, and we hit every financial goal that we set out, and it was still, for me, it was empty.
Yeah.
And not saying it wasn't empty for her. It was more my driving, like, we got to get to this. And when I hit these things, it was like, this is it. This is nothing. And I was still left with myself. And so I just want to share that is, I understand you get to this place and it's like, okay.
Yeah. And I know very few. In fact, I could probably count them on one hand of people I've come across with who have arrived in later adulthood unscathed. All of us, whether maybe we had a really wonderful childhood, but then we had a relationship that was damaging.
Yeah.
So yeah, the work I do. So this is great conversation. So the work I do is so born out of all the experiences I went through and the richness that I've seen in my own life as I began to peel all those layers away. So the analogy I use is, we're born into this world with an empty suitcase. And then our guardians, our parents, media, these days, social media, how we're supposed to show up and how we're supposed to look and what we're supposed to be doing. We're filling that suitcase up with everything from outside sources.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you know that. Yeah.
And when there's no, so interesting we're talking about this right now. I had no idea we were going to talk about this, but when it's not growing up in a narcissist's house, being a child of that, our cups are never full. We never get our cups full. And what we are left with is confusion, fear, prolific people pleasing, because you're never sure like when something's going to go off and you're hyper alert. And then we crave love. And then that craving of love leads to this path of pain, typically because we're feeling things that the void was created way earlier that, they can never satiate. And do you find that?
Oh goodness. That's what drove me my whole entire life was, so, it's a self-doubt, not enough, never doing enough. I'm never enough.
Yeah.
And everything I did was to fulfill my unmet need, which was, I just wanted to be appreciated and loved.
Yes.
So I volunteered everywhere. I said yes to everything. I gave 200% of myself to make sure everybody else was happy. And then you throw in codependency.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. In fact, an episode just released today on the Golden Rule Revolution. My wife and I did an episode for the very first time together. We talked about our journey and talked about the codependency that we had. And when we both have been on this journey of healing and yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful when you can do it together. My husband and I are on this journey together as well. And we went through a very bumpy patch, 3.5 years ago. And I didn't think we were going to make it. Yeah. He was extraordinary, really stepped up to plate. And we separated for 6 months in order to see ourselves clearly. And let me tell you, there was one, we were both working with different people, but people to guide us through this. Yeah. And it was suggested that we have no contact for a month, which was hard. I mean, everything is intertwined. So that took some work. But that month for both of us, but we talked about myself here, was profound because I really saw my codependence addiction show up. And it was unnerving and it was unsettling, but the most important message is in here. I saw it. And when you start to see your stuff, then you can start to change it.
It's so cool. I'm so glad we're talking about this. I went to this leadership emotional intelligence training down in San Diego, and then my wife ended up going down there, and it was there that we learned. I grew up in a religious house, and I think this narrative of two halves make a whole narrative is incredibly it's dangerous. it leads to victimhood. It leads to all this stuff. And down at the training, they're like, no, 1 and 1, you're whole humans, and 1 and 1 makes 3. And the third is the relationship. So you both get to choose into you being both whole human beings, healthy as on your own. And then what you create together is the third. And it was eye-opening and beautiful and powerful. And my wife and I, we talked about this on the episode, that it really changed everything for us, that we didn't have to work on our marriage. I mean, we went through a bumpy patch too. I caused a lot of pain. I was a wrecking ball because I was so obsessed with whatever I could to get validation, and that led to some really bad things. And when her and I worked on each other, our relationship became so powerful in a way that I could have never even conceived of.
Right.
And it's cool to hear your story too, where once you see it, you're like, whoa, this happens everywhere. How many people are stuck? And I'm sure that's what you're finding, like a lot of women stuck in these places.
Well, and women, men, you know, that I'm on the other side, it really does make me sad, you know, especially when I'm looking at relationships, and it's there's just this tone of complacency and status quo that's taken over. And you know, where you get, and this is part of that busyness thing, this culture we're living in, where everybody is moving so fast. In fact, I was thinking about this morning, that we live in this culture where everything is about now. We want it now. We can order something online, we get it now. We can text somebody, we want a response now. But what is completely lost is that piece of living in the now.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
So tell me more about your journey of like that month separation, and like where did you go from there?
You know, I had created space in my life. So my idea for that year was not to be traveling, wasn't to be pulling every weed in my garden. It wasn't to be volunteering everywhere. In fact, it was just the opposite. It was a year to strengthen my no muscles. So I learned how to say no. For the most part, people were really respectful of my decision. But what happened during that year, the first 3 months, especially the first 3 months, I tell somebody I took a sabbatical, like, oh my God, that must have been amazing. Like, no, it was so hard because I cleared everything off my plate. I was fortunate. I'm in a financial position where I could take a year without any financial concerns whatsoever. The only responsibility I really had was to my relationships and to my well-being. So, you know, showers, eat healthy, that sort of thing. Yeah. I was still overwhelmed. So from that perspective, it really became clear that overwhelm is largely an emotional state. And I was feeling overwhelmed because of my self-doubt. And, you know, my friends are all out there, they're doing stuff, they're getting up, they're going to the office, they're creating stuff, they're accomplishing things. And I would come to the end of the day and I hadn't accomplished anything. And I too I struggle with depression. Yeah. So that was without the drive of accomplishing. So that was another thing I realized, men as well, but women, because I work with women, I speak to women, but women have a very skewed sense of how much they can accomplish in a day. And I think probably anybody raised in that narcissistic environment probably does too, because we're setting up to prove ourselves every single day.
Yes.
Yeah. So that became really clear. And I didn't know what made me happy anymore. Part of me, I realized, you know, I was still kind of stuck back in my early 20s when it was all about fun and thinking that I should be out there doing stuff and super social. And come to find out, I'm one-on-one social and small group social. I don't even like that. So why is it I'm thinking I need more of that in my life? You know,
totally.
We're human beings. We're so darn crazy.
Totally. That is, isn't that funny? Like once that relief of or release of I have to be doing this is gone, then you look at it like I don't actually like doing the things I was doing.
Right.
We had up to 12 full-time employees at our company, and my wife and I got to this point where I was like, what am I don't like any I don't like any of this. I mean, it was really a transformational set. I mean, so we gave them all 2.5 months notice. We're like, hey, and they knew I was going through a lot of emotional stuff. But yeah, once you realize you don't have to, and then it's like, well, what do I want to do? What do I like to do? Yeah.
And that is what the sabbatical year was for me. So I feel I've been really fortunate in my life that people have shown up exactly when I need them. And before I took my sabbatical, and I'll never forget, it was 9 years ago, I was sitting on a couch over at a friend's house for a pre-wedding celebration. And I was sitting with a friend of mine who's very wise. And she said, you know, anything that comes after a should is a lie.
Wow, that's good.
Anything that comes after I should is a lie. And it's like somebody just popped a yummy brownie in my mouth. I was just chewing on that going, oh my gosh, never thought about that before. Yeah. So I'd already started to integrate that concept into my life. At my sabbatical year, how I rewired my brain, so to speak, was anytime I heard myself say, I should, I have to, I need to, I would follow it with hit the pause button and say, well, what is it I want? And one of the things I learned was it doesn't take much to shift. Have you heard that analogy? I think it's called the 1 degree shift, where a ship sets out like a big freighter, and it adjusts its course by 1 degree. And in a couple 100 miles, it's off. I can't remember how many degrees, but it's changed direction substantially. And my feeling is, as humans, we feel that if we're going to make a change in our life, it has to be massive. But we can actually make massive changes by making little 1 degree shifts. So that simple little shift of asking myself, what is it I want? Often it was, I just want to go outside and go for a walk. I go outside and go for a walk. And it could even be just 5 minutes. And I come back and my whole self has changed. That's simplicity.
Beautiful. Yeah, simplicity.
Yeah.
It's so it's cool how life happens. It's like you work with someone who reached out to me. I read your website. I'm like, yeah, this because I get reached out to a lot, and a lot of people that are pitching to be on podcasts. It's very business focused. They're like, and I saw it. I'm like, okay, I got your vibe as human, and it was really beautiful. You're now hearing your story. What the shoulding is really, that's a really good, I heard at this training, they say, don't should on yourself. Everyone should over themselves. Right. And there was one of the exercises on day 1 or 2 that was so transformational for me. And this was this is a little over 2 years ago, but if ever there was a born again experience that I had in my life, it was at this thing that was zero spiritual, zero void of like any narrative. It was just love and healing and experiencing, going back into the most painful places and then putting words to those places, which was so profoundly powerful. But they did this exercise. It said, list everything in detail what you have to do Monday morning and be as specific as possible. And they say, I have to. So we'd go through, I have to. And then they say, change it with the same thing, but change it with I choose to. And that was like, Ooh, that felt good. And then they said, I get to do these things. And that was even better. And then they're like, now add a sense of spirituality to this and say, I'm blessed to. And it was interesting, my perspective, how I felt. It felt like when I was saying that I have to, the things felt way bigger than me.
And heavy.
I have to. And then it was like, I have to overcome adversity. I wrote a book that I don't even talk about anymore. It's titled Everyone Has a Plan Till They Get Punched in the Face. And it was all about overcoming adversity and just this like life is a grind. And that's how it felt in my life. Like every day I have to go out, attack again and summon up the courage to go back out. But when they did that exercise and it was, I have to, then I choose to, then I get to, then I bless to. By the time I said I'm blessed to, the things that I talked about felt so small. Like I could pick them up and toss them or discard them. Like I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything. I could do, I am a free soul, a free human being. And that
Yeah.
was profound. So it's cool to hear you someone to say, I've never heard of it said like that. Anything after should is a lie. And it truly is, because the truth is you can do whatever you want.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So that was, there's such a beautiful example of it. It sounds, especially from our world, we're always struggling with not enough. That something so small could be so profound, and it is, and it's I share it widely because I think it's so amazing. And when I'm working with people, we always work on that. It's an exercise in awareness. Mindful. If you bring that into mindfulness awareness, you'll shift.
That's right. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you find working with women? I work predominantly with men.
Oh, okay.
So I help men understand that the first time they were wounded, and this goes for all of humanity, but I want to get your perspective on the female side and the male perspective I'm going to share. But the feminine and masculine energies, everyone associates with gender, which those have nothing to do with gender. Just the feminine energy receives and the masculine energy gives. And that there's this balance that we must stay in. But our ability as humans to receive love, when we first got hurt by someone who should have loved us, we learned early on that receiving quote unquote love is not safe.
Yes.
And so then we keep trying to take whatever we can to satiate, like you and I, like striving so hard to satiate this really void of, we just wanted to be loved.
Right.
And so for women, what have you found causes their out of balance, I guess,
so,
is the way to say it.
Yeah. I can so speak to this. Women are innately nourishers, givers, and pleasers. And then we're also socialized to be nourishers, givers, and pleasers. Nowhere in our, I'm going to use the word training for lack of a better word, but nowhere in our training has anyone ever asked us what we need. We're innately wired to give and nurture, which is beautiful.
Yes.
But we're doing it to the detriment of our well-being. And in the business world, what I really see is women are showing up really harnessing. I call it the 6 principles of soul-centered success. And women easily harness the top 3, which is compassion, connection, and contribution. But women really struggle with clarity, conviction, and confidence. Yeah. Especially that confidence piece.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think both for men and women, establishing that layer of clarity, which is really looking at how we've been socially conditioned. So we can see that and then start self-conditioning. Whole different thing. Social conditions outside, self-conditioning is inside. Yeah.
It's what is it? As an adult to do this, it's work. That's what people need to understand, right? It's work. It's not like there's no simple fix. There's no, it takes work. It takes daily, like you said, mindfulness and awareness, and to say, like, we're Jewish home. And so one of the things in Judaism, the very first prayer before you even get out of bed, which is such a beautiful concept, is a prayer called the Moadani, which says, I'll just paraphrase it. It says, I thank you for returning my soul within me with compassion and loving kindness. Like to be thankful that our breath is back in our lungs. That's the very first thing to give gratitude for. And I love it. And I have not missed, once I started really getting more in practice with that, I've not missed a morning probably for 2.5 years saying that every morning. And that's just that's before I even get out of bed. Then the day happens. And what I tell guys and people is, it takes a lot of work to do the self-conditioning, because you're not just dealing with now forward, you're dealing with your origin up till now and trying to recreate new neural pathways and all these things. So can you share just an expectation for people listening, the work involved?
Ah, Well, first of all, it's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Second, you you're ready for the work when you're ready for the work.
Mm,
I
that's good.
yeah. Um Third, I feel like this is something you don't do alone. So
I
I
agree.
have,
Yes.
in my life, I gathered up 9 years ago a group of women. There's 4 of us, and we meet every single month. And we've been doing this for 9 years. So I have this support group. Um, and then I love this term, compassionate awareness,
Mm,
because I feel like this work really comes from looking at, we can often know where we need to go by where we're judging ourselves the hardest.
mm, yeah,
And
that's
yeah, and
good.
then it's
That's good.
looking at that with compassionate awareness and asking questions. Well, where did this come from? Why do I feel this way? And that's where everything really starts. Is you have just, maybe it's even just an inkling of something's off.
Mm,
And then there is an element of courage too, that to step in, turn towards these dark places
yes,
takes extraordinary amount of courage.
yes,
And
yes.
as you know, it can be so hard. And there's layers. I just went through another huge layer in the spiritual world. It would be called, a dark night of the soul. I just went
Mhm,
through that
mhm,
towards
mhm,
the end of this year. And
mm.
I'm on the other side now, and I have this another layer of beautiful richness because of that. But
Mm.
allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Courage is everything. It's
Yeah.
everything. I say on another podcast I host called The Vulnerable Hero, and it's geared just for men predominantly, is I define vulnerability as having the courage to experience love in its purest form. And I believe
Mm.
love, we've bastardized this concept of love, but the word love means to give. In Hebrew, is a hava, which means to give. So love always gives. That's how
Yeah.
nature is. Nature is in
Mm-hmm.
the cycle of giving, and it's constantly giving and regenerating and replenishing. Our universe is, the very essence is always giving, expansion, love. So
Yes.
it's not even too much of a spiritual concept to understand that love is in the air when you step through and have the courage to face that which you're afraid of most. You'll find you'll have so much more self-love on the other side of facing down your fear. And I was talking to my wife about this in this episode that aired today, is the lack of self-love, I believe, is directly correlated to the lack of courage. And so when we're courageous, we'll feel more proud of ourselves. We'll feel like, wow, I did that. Like that's I can do more things. What else can I do? And the more courage that we step into, the more self-love that we will have for ourselves. And I really truly believe that when we can encourage each other as humans, just step in and face those,
Mm-hmm.
the void, the darkness, the emptiness, the things that we're most afraid of, and then realize, wait, we're the light. We're
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, I'm the light. There's nothing to this darkness. Like, I'm the light.
Yeah, um, I think you'll relate to this. I'm going to just be full out
Yeah, bring it
vulnerable
on.
here.
I love it. Yes.
Last week, so, I never want to um, I don't want people to think I've got it all figured out. And I no longer struggle with not feeling like I'm not enough issues or self-doubt. They're still there. They
Yes.
don't have the grip that they used to on me, but I still have my moments.
Mm.
So last week when I got the email that it was through your scheduling thing that the episode had been canceled.
Yes.
This is before your email came explaining you were sick. So the first thing that hit me was, oh, he's gone to my website and seen that I'm like a nobody.
Mm.
That's where I went. However, I caught that, and I'm pretty intuitive. I actually had the sense, oh, I wonder if he's sick, because everybody's sick. And
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
enough, not 30 seconds later, I get this email from, you've got this sore throat.
Yeah.
But that was where I went. And when you're doing the work, it's not that it goes away, but you are able to recognize when you're triggered much quicker.
Yes.
You're able to take a look at it. I have this other saying I love to share with people, and it actually comes from the Course of Miracles. Above all else, let me see this differently. So I use it. I say, how can I see this differently?
Yes.
And so that's what I did. It's like, okay, I caught it. Oh boy, is that ever my not enough stuff? And then, oh, wait a minute, actually, I think my website tells who I am. And if that's not who they want, then that's all right. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So it was this little process, but I pivoted really fast. And then a couple days later, there's a few other things. I love life. It's just, the randomness, how things just come up. And I had this experience, and then it just, I had this feeling of being with a person, and I could feel it was almost like this energetic back and forth, like the visual would be taffy. You know how you're pulling taffy back and forth?
Yeah,
okay, so, but a bit more buzzy than that. And then what washed over me, it's like, oh, in regards to not enough stuff, oh, wait a minute. The gifts in me enhance the gifts in you.
Yes.
The gifts in you enhance the gifts in me.
That's right.
And it's not that I'm less than or better than. It's that you have this specific spice that's beautiful. I have this specific spice that's beautiful. And we bring that all together. And I think that brings it back to kind of what you were saying. 1 + 1 equals
3.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you just shared. I think it's such a beautiful example of compassion. Truly to say, this is what one of the things I proclaiming, hammering home, preaching, I don't know what the right terminology is for it, but if I grew up in your house, would I be any different than you? And if you grew up in my house, would you be any different than me? If we grew up in Donald Trump's house, would we be any different than him? There's not a person on planet Earth that could say that. Truly, what they've gone through and what I've gone through are different, which have uniquely made them, which has uniquely made me. And then when we see the uniqueness that each of us bring to the table, I use Donald Trump as an example because he's so polarizing.
Yes.
And yet, God, I'm so thankful I didn't have to grow up in that house because, who knows? I know what I grew up with, and it led me to try to kill myself. I mean, God forbid that it's something worse. And so we can accentuate and bring the flavor and the beauty out of each other when we have compassion and see that we're not less than,
right.
We're co-journeying together on this.
Oh, I love that. We're co-journeying together. Right. Yeah. And, and I feel like my personal journey, unlike so many others, it's been fraught with some really huge, hard stuff, but it's been perfect for me. When I sit where I'm at right now, I go, wow, had those things not happened, I would not have learned what I know now, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, which is helping other people, so to speak, empty their suitcase so they can fill it up with who they are. That's
beautiful. Yeah. All the pain turned into that beautiful purpose that you are serving. And it really, for whatever anyone's going through, whatever negative that we've experienced, there is the positive to impact other people. And when we can shift away from being so self-focused and really serve-focused or servant-focused, serving-focused, then we see that the pain that we've gone through is actually the gift that we've experienced to give to other people.
Absolutely.
And really, if someone has an experience, this is where religion becomes such a dangerous trapping, or any spiritual teaching, when the spiritual teacher just pontificates a perfected message and presents the image of holiness and not humanity, then it makes people feel less than, and then that person has the answer, and it creates this like really dangerous dichotomy in our social structure, as opposed to everything. We're just human. We've all gone through pain. We've all lived, and we can co-journey and have compassion together. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And, along the same lines, social media has done the same thing.
Yes. Yes. You're great point.
You can paint yourself to look like, I was talking with somebody the other day, and I said, I'm 56
Mm-hmm.
and 57 here in a few months. And so I'm having to catch myself a bit because I see I'm getting a bit cynical. And she said, well, is it cynical or is there just a knowing because you've been around a while? I said, well, maybe that's it. That was a nicer way to put it. But
Yeah, totally.
I said, thank you. So there I am being hard on myself, But the thought that came to mind was, okay, in the online social world, you can 5 steps to making $1 million.
Oh my!
And those are the things I'm like, no, not really. Maybe a few people have, but they're able to grab those 5 steps because they're ready.
Yeah.
They've done the work.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So I can do something which a lot of people can't do. I can sit and not feel agitated. I can sit and not feel agitated because I've done the work.
Right. That's
yeah.
Beautiful. What for those listening, you predominantly work with women. Is it business leaders or is it any female out there looking for support? Who is your ideal client and how can they best get a hold of you and reach out to you?
My ideal client is somebody who has lived a while. So they've been on the earth for a few decades for sure. I love working with women in business and women entrepreneurs because I love business. I have 35 years in business. But my ideal client is somebody who is waking up in the morning and possibly thinking, gosh, there must be a better way. They're arriving at the end of the day, they are flipping exhausted, and they're starting to question how they're showing up, and they're tired. And they have a desire to, as you say, be a difference maker. And, so I largely work with women in business, but I had a woman I worked with this summer who was looking for her North Star. She wanted to start a business. And through our work, she's a mom. She has 2 young kids. And through our work, she was like, wait a minute, I don't actually have to work financially. I just want to really be there for my kids.
Beautiful.
And that's beautiful. She's got plenty of time. Her North Star will come. So yeah, that's where I'm back keeping it real. Not everybody needs to be out there hustling and leading hundreds of thousands. Honestly, to me, leadership, it's not about leading people. It's about leading yourself from the inside out and setting a good example. So people I admire are people who are really comfortable in their own skin. And to me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Which is our superpower, right? Our superpower is our ability to take our mask off and show our authenticity, show our vulnerability, and simply just be in the moment, listen. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're an awesome person. I'm so
thank you. Great conversation.
Everyone listening. So Suzy and I just met for the very first time when we hopped on this call, and little did I know we live very close to each other, and I look forward to connecting with you many, many more times past this conversation. So thank you so much for joining today. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Oh, thank you, Lucas. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. My brothers and sisters, wherever you are around the world, just know that you can go inside and surrender all the fear, get it out of you. Just get grounded in the beautiful power that you have as a human being to go out and inspire people to love people, even if it's digitally right now, even if it's by proxy. You can text someone, you can give them a call. You can even write a handwritten letter and take a picture of it and send it to them. That's what we're doing in our house. I hope you're inspired. I hope you're keeping your anxiety levels low, filling your tank with love and joy and inspiration. And if you need to, turn the news off. It doesn't do anything but increase cortisol and increase your dopamine hits, which isn't a long-term, healthy, successful plan for you. Well, thank you for watching. Find more information about me at lucasmack.com. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you are, on YouTube. Subscribe to this podcast and share it out. This is the time where the golden rule revolutionaries who treat people like people and nothing less can rise up and inspire people. And I'm counting on you to go out and be the change you want to see in this world, as I am trying to be that for you. My name is Lucas Mack. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next episode.